when Monzi asked me to do this, the first thing that came to mind was, I hope I can hit retirement before we decide to go back to 12 to 14 day wean age. So, several years ago, we kind of made the decision that we're going to go back to nurseries. If we kind of decided our charge was to provide the best environment possible for the pig and the best care possible, we elected that we could do that better in nurseries than we could do in Wean-to-Finish. A little bit about HANOR for people that aren't familiar with us. We're established in 1996. We have 92,000 sows, 725 employees. Our kind of headquarters is down in Enid, Oklahoma. Just a little bit of the overview on our production. We've got about 46,000 sows in Oklahoma, 27,000 out in North Carolina, and about 12,000 in Illinois. Part of those are with the Carthage Vet Clinic, and we have some Gap 1 sows in Illinois that provides pigs for a system out there. On the processing side, we're part of Triumph Foods, which we built in 2006, and STF, which went into operation in 2017. We also partnered with Seaboard and purchased Daly's Meats back 2010, 2011. Built a new plant in St. Joe. Have 2 plants out in Montana and Utah. And, before we went to Triumph, we were part of America's Best Pork program at Farmland. When they kind of went broke, we kind of partnered with a number of other like-minded producers to build Triumph Foods with Christensen's, New Fashion, Eichelberger's, Allied Producers, which is a smaller group of independent producers, and built Triumph because we didn't want to have to go around hoping that we could get a packer to pay us a decent price for our pigs every 2 or 3 years. And that worked well enough for us that we partnered with Seaboard and built STF in 2017. Just went to a second shift last fall. That was supposed to have happened early last year, but just shortage in labor, not getting enough labor to get the second shift up and running, delayed it by about 6 months. There's a picture of the new Daly's plant that we built right across the road from our plant in St. Joe. Kind of an interesting point, when I first went down there to look at that plant location, probably 04, 05, that's where all the old St. Joe stockyards is. So it's kind of a completely different place today than what it was back before we built Triumph Foods there. Let me set the stage a little bit. We needed to have some significant growth in order to provide the pigs that we needed for STF. So 2016, we were at 465,000 wean-to-finish bases in Iowa, and we're going to look to have to double to that by 2 times over the next 3 years in order to meet our delivery commitments into the plant. So we had significant growth ahead of us. We had to make some decisions on how we were going to do that. A couple other things. We had a very virulent strain of PRRS through about 60 to 70% of our farms, which was causing significant challenges, as did a number of you guys here in this room. Daryl talked a little bit about, stabilization versus eradication. At that point in time, we were doing a stabilization process, and we were struggling with twice-a-year breaks on the wean pigs on the downstream flow. We had a young wean age. We were at 18 to 19 days on the wean age, and so we struggled to take care of those pigs and wean-to-finish. Reality was we had double-stocked wean-to-finish facilities in northwest Iowa. Wintertime, we put temperature loggers in those wean-to-finish so we could get a handle on the environment that we were creating for those pigs. When we hit cold periods of time, I was appalled at the ups and downs that we had in temperatures in those barns. You go back and look at your temperatures. Last winter when we went through that month where we were 20 below most nights, we struggled to keep feeder to finish barns at proper temperature, let alone wean pig barns. We elected, like a number of other companies, to take advantage of cheap feed in Iowa. And so we have a lot of lateral disease pressure with PRRS and PD. Dr. Kate Dion did some work with Iowa State looking at the cost of those diseases within our system. And when we have PRRS and PED in one of our farms, it cost us at the end of the day $7 a pig. So we had to find a way to try to minimize that amount of lateral disease pressure. The other problem we had in Wean-to-Finish that we certainly weren't able to get resolved is we just had too many pigs. I mean, we had contract growers that wanted to spend an hour or two a day in the farm. If it was a 4,800 head site, then all of a sudden we went in there and put 9,600 wean pigs in there. They wanted to increase that to about 2.5 hours a day. And that was just not enough time to get the pig care that we wanted on young pigs. And we're getting ready here in another month to start with manure pumping. And we wrecked a ton of groups of pigs in Wean-to-Finish barns when we pump manure. Turn the heaters off, turn the brooders off, get the fans running, try to minimize having a barn explosion or hurting the pigs. We just weren't happy with the results we were getting in that type of a system. The other part that we've been struggling with, like most of you in this room, is labor. Who's going to take care of the pigs? How are we going to get done the job that we need to get done? At the end of the day, when we added all that together, the results we're getting, we were less than happy with. So when we started to go down that road, looking at nurseries versus Wean-to-Finish, there will be some in here that are disappointed that we didn't have a big, sophisticated model that drove us to that. But we were tight. In 2016, we were extremely tight on space. We picked up nurseries just to try to help alleviate some of our space constraints. And when I was looking at sick pigs, I'd go to Wean-to-Finish barns and look at them. I'd go to nurseries, look at them. And what we found in nurseries, even though the pigs didn't look great, they looked a lot better than they did in our Wean-to-Finish barns. So it was a pretty easy decision for us to start looking more seriously at nurseries. The other thing that we needed to do to try to take advantage and get that $7 a pig out of our system by PRRS and PED, we need better biosecurity. We needed better care, so we felt that nurseries allowed us to specialize on our labor. And one kind of area that we seen once we got into our nurseries, we weren't doing the best job on our Wean-to-Finish barns managing our starter diets. And so we were able to get our bins set up so we were able to easily manage those. Other benefits, something that we found that's kind of unintended, we went to Brent Rastetter, Quality Ag builds a big chunk of our barns, and we told him we want to look at building nurseries, and he looked like a deer caught in the headlights. He said, "Jim, I haven't built a nursery in 20 years. So we sat in a bar one night and designed what our nursery's going to look like. And those things ended up, with the increase in construction cost, those nurseries ended up cash flowing way better than the Wean-to-Finish barns. So we had absolutely no problem finding guys to put up nurseries. And that allowed us to go through that growth phase where we needed to double in size and get the barns laid down at a much quicker rate than what we anticipated. And that also, we've been a space poor company for forever. And so by getting ahead of the curve on the spaces, it allowed us to get rid of our bottom 10% of our poorest performing sites. And we've had some grower meetings in the last 6 months, and I was able to share with those guys that bottom 10% compared to the top third is costing us $16 a pig. And you look at that at 2.5 turns a year, that's $42 a space. So, if those guys gave us those barns to put our pigs in, we still couldn't afford to put our pigs in those facilities. So, and we basically replaced those we do triple net lease sites. And so we're putting up good facilities, getting good labor in those. So we're getting rid of the bottom end and putting sites back in there that are in the top 10%. That's a big number to us. We anticipated some improvement, but we reduced our veterinary expense by 27% as we kind of transitioned into nurseries. We had fewer events where we stressed pigs due to poor environment, and we reduced our grow-finish mortality by 30%. Some additional things or advantages that we got by doing the nurseries, since we were building a whole new system, we designed our nurseries in very tight geographic pods. And so that way our labor, the bulk of our labor in our nurseries are company employees. So we've got folks taking care of 6, 7, 8 nurseries, all the same source of pigs. And there's an advantage in that. And then we took one step further. We put fixed finishing flows underneath those nurseries. And we were able to reduce, most of those finishers are within 30 miles of those nurseries. So we ended up reducing our inner sanctum transport costs by $2.15 a head. So, those were some advantages for having tight pods of nurseries. The other advantage, area that we've had a lot of concern over, is the majority of our cost on our drug and vet cost is vaccine. And we were not doing a very good job of how we were managing that vaccine. We would ship vaccine to the sites. We shipped vaccine to growers' houses, and we found it in machine sheds. We found it sitting out in people's porches in sub-zero weather, 100-degree weather. And if we're going to invest that much money in vaccine, we had to do a better job at taking care of it. So we put regional warehouses. So we've got a warehouse within 40 miles of most of our nurseries. And our service techs deliver that vaccine to the site. They put the vaccine into the refrigerator just to try to make certain that we're taking good care of that. Basically, we felt that nurseries were just stacking the odds in our favor. We still stub our toe, but it's not as severe an incident as we had when we're in Wean-to-Finish. I kind of had to smile when Daryl said we don't make mistakes fast enough. There's some days we certainly wouldn't disappoint you on that. We still use Wean-to-Finish. We're using Wean-to-Finish as backup when we have to depopulate nurseries in other states. GDU, we have to depopulate GDUs in other states. Historically, what we've done the last 2 or 3 years, we cannibalized our current nursery flows to try to accommodate that, and then we would be shipping 35 or 40 pound pigs out, and we wouldn't get feed budgets right. There's a comedy of errors that went with us by not doing the same thing every week. So what we target on our nurseries, we target a 50 to 55 pound pig to finishing. We do that week in, week out, and then in turn we're able to get feed budgets right and a variety of other things. The biosecurity was one of the big things that we tried to improve when we went to nurseries. And, one of the things we've adopted as a company probably 10 years or more now is we're single source sow flows. We do not commingle any pigs in our system. And so we designed our nurseries to try to match our sow farms, just to get away from what Daryl talked about, filling nurseries we filled some over 4 weeks. And we're a maximum of a 2-week fill now, 1-week fill on a lot of them. When we first came to Iowa when we were in nurseries, one of the things that did not work was we were multi-sourcing finishers from multiple nurseries. In Iowa, nurseries end up taking on the same characteristics as a sow unit. With all the lateral disease pressure, each nursery has its own kind of unique health status, and when we commingle those together in finishers, we're always pulling them to the lowest common denominator. So all of our nurseries are either 2,400 or 4,800 head sites. Our finishing is lined up, so when we fill finisher, the pigs come from one nursery. And since we're at a maximum of a 2-week fill, we run basically all in, all out. We make certain all the pigs are off the site's cleaned up before we refill it. Other things that we did, and PD drove a lot of this, but in 2016 you could count on one hand the number of sites that we had that had showers on it. Today we're over 1 million spaces, and we're at between 50 and 60% of our sites that are shower in, shower out. Our goal is to be 100% long term. We build all of our nurseries dock heights, so that way we're not dealing with portable loading chutes, trying to clean them or not clean them when the weather is cold. We're 100% incinerators on our nurseries with no rendering. And if we get a foreign animal disease here in our country, I think that's going to be critical to keep rendering trucks away from your farm. Obviously, there's no slaughter trucks coming in and out of the nurseries. We have improved our inner sanctum biosecurity because we do have tight pods. We partnered with 2 or 3 haulers in Iowa that mainly haul only weaned and feeder pigs. Those trailers are baked. Separation. Our nurseries, we targeted 2 miles from other people's pigs, and finishers 1 mile. When we went down that road, our development folks said there's no way we'll get a barn built in Iowa. But we've added probably close to 400,000 spaces with that separation. And what I'll tell you is a lot of our nurseries have no pigs within 4 to 6 miles. When we started focusing on that, I would have told you there's not a spot left in Iowa that you could find that kind of separation. But with a little work, we've been able to achieve that. And you know what? We're not there yet. You know, with our guys in Iowa, it's been an extremely difficult culture to change as far as improved biosecurity. I was kind of fortunate enough or not to come up through the breeding stock business, so biosecurity was a part of what we did. And that's what we're trying to get to our entire team in Iowa. Again, we're not there all the way there, but we improve every single day. Just a chart Tara shared with me, or Dr. Donovan, of our number of sites that have PD. We monitor all of our sites. We test all of our sites. It's something we track. And since we've put a focus on biosecurity, it's been a nice downward trend as far as our % positive sites. And I look for that to continue to improve through this next year. The specialized labor. The advantage of nurseries, we're controlling labor on 60 sites versus 350. And we're able to have staff that's specialized on handling wean pigs, and we're developing training programs for just nurseries. And we've seen a huge advantage of that. As I mentioned earlier, about 70 to 80% of our staff on our nurseries are employees versus contract growers or ICs. We would do more with contract growers, but they're limited in availability. We utilize ICs when we come across good ones, but our core focus has been on employees. In 2016, we had 0 employees. We were not managing day-to-day labor on barns. Today, we're over half our system. We're providing the day-to-day labor. 100% of our labor comes through the TN Visa program, and that offers and that's been it's been a blessing. Those people all have college degrees. They do a fantastic job. They are a valuable part of our team. But trying to integrate that all in our one system has been a challenge. And my guys get a little frustrated at times when if we have employees that don't speak English. But I kind of remind them, the guy down at the packing plant, on the main line, they speak 17 different languages. And if those guys can figure out how to run a packing plant like that, we can deal with one different language. It is an expensive option, but we feel that the advantage that we get in pig care, our TN Visa program with all the onboarding, pickups, vehicles, we're at about $8.50 a space, which is more costly than what it would cost for ICs. But the level of care that we get is second to none. One thing I wanted to stress is since we do have employees in company-owned space, we're able to keep them at 6,500 spaces per employee, which is where we think people need to be to give them time to take care of the barns. I see so many systems that have way more spaces than that per person, and it's tough, especially when you got sick pigs, to get them taken care of like you'd like. On the design side, as again, dock height, 3 bins. I'll go into a little more detail on that. Incinerator. We're still a small pen dry feeder company. We do that on our nurseries. We do it on our finishers also. 2 water sources per pen. We used edge controllers with actuated inlets. We spec them at 3 square feet when we build them. Maximum ventilation is 56 CFM per head. and the inlet capacity is 400 CFM per square foot of opening. There's kind of an outline, basically 48, that's our typical 4,800 head nursery. 4 rooms, 1,200 pigs per room. Office, shower in, walk-through office up at the top. And we kind of load pigs through a central load out here. Kind of a picture, that's a 2,400. If that was a 4,800 head site, there'd just be another half of the barn added on there. Kind of the side of the room. The 3 bins, kind of what we went with the 3 bins just to help us better manage our feed. So when we get to an end of a turn, we make certain that we have 2 empty feed bins there. So if we got nursery 4 left, we can leave it in the bin. We don't have to spend the money to back it out. Then we can place our nursery 2 in one bin, nursery 3 in the other bin, and we can ensure that all pigs get their proper feed budget. All the air comes in the inlet and goes up into the attic. And what we've done, we just did these this year, what we found is those attics were pressurizing when the wind's out of the wrong direction, so we needed a way to get the pressure out of there. And we also, that night we're in the bar, we spec'd these barns at 600 square feet, just like we would a tunnel barn. And so we went back and added these on all of our older nurseries to get us to that 400 cubic feet per square foot of opening. But what we had happen when we did that, it allows those attics to breathe. And so, when they pressurize, then that air is coming down through your inlets in the middle of winter and can create some cold pigs. This kind of eliminated that from happening. We did add a snow door that will close, but it leaves about 4 to 5 or 6 inches along the outside of this right in here, so that attic can breathe through the winter also. And we've checked that, and we've had no problems with snow getting up into the attics.